11 persons dead, 3 injured in Kano-Bauchi Road accident. Village leader, 5 others killed in fresh attack in Plateau communities. In international news, U.S. Republican Mike Pence faces off with Democrat Kamala Harris in tonight's vice presidential debate. And in sport, Super Eagles former coach Samson Siasia laments delay of his appeal by the Court of Arbitration.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. 9 persons confirmed killed in a road accident on Kano Zaria Road. Federal Road Safety Corps Commandant Zubairu Mato reports the crash occurred about 9 a.m. on Monday when 2 vehicles collided at Imawa village in Kura local government area of the state. Mato attributed the accidents to reckless driving. 2 males, 6 females, and a child died in the crash, while 3 others sustained injuries. In another development, Biyom local government area of Plateau State was attacked by hoodlums. Traditional ruler and 5 members of the community were killed in that attack. 2 weeks ago, district head of Forum in Barkinladi local government area and some other persons were killed in 1 district in Jos. Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong has ordered an investigation into the killings. Security agencies have also been instructed to redouble their efforts in apprehending the attackers. There has been a decline in the number of coronavirus infections in the country. 118 new cases were confirmed on Tuesday by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. No deaths have been reported in the last 3 days. In total, Nigeria has now recorded 59,583 cases, of which 51,308 have been discharged. The latest figure was recorded in 14 states. Lagos had the highest tally with 41 cases. Rivers topped 19, Osun reported 17, and Nasarawa got 13 cases. The rest of the states each confirmed single digits. Total death toll stands at 1,113. President Muhammad Buhari will present the 2021 budget estimates at a joint session of the National Assembly on Thursday, a week after the House of Representatives approved the medium-term expenditure, the fiscal strategy paper, and put the total proposed 2021 expenditure at 13 trillion naira. Senate President Ahmed Lawan had also announced the Senate would provide a 1-month window for budget defense by ministries, departments, and agencies. Ondo High Court in Akure has sentenced the founder of Shotitobire Prison Chapel, Prophet Babatunde Alfa, and 5 others to life imprisonment over last year's disappearance from the church of a 1-year-old boy, Gold Kolawale. Justice Olusegun Odushola sentenced the defendants to life in prison after finding them guilty of the 2-count charge of kidnapping and aiding and abetting to get kidnapped based on the circumstantial evidence presented by the prosecution. Justice Odushola also accused the police of complicity in the entire episode. The Prophet and other defendants had been on trial for months after the 1-year-old mysteriously vanished from the church's children department during a Sunday service in November last year. The child's parents accused the founder of the church, Prophet Alfa, of foul play in the mysterious disappearance of their son. Nigerian Labour Congress President Ayuba Waba is asking the courts to stop issuing orders forbidding citizens from exercising their rights to protest. Waba says while citizens of developed countries enjoy freedom to protest, Nigerian courts issue injunctions to restrain citizens from expressing their displeasure at unfavorable policies. The union leaders said this at a public lecture titled Dignity of Labor and Labor Justice, organized by the National Industrial Court of Nigeria as part of activities celebrating its 2021-2020 legal year. Waba says the concept of labor justice has declined in value in the country because of the overzealousness of Nigerian politicians. Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, represented by Justice Wani Abba Aji of the Supreme Court, said the judiciary would continue to uphold the rights and dignity of the nation's workforce. Industrial Court President Justice Benedict Kanyep said a specialized court would continue to work to protect labor dignity and justice.
Coming up, African stories. Zimbabwe teachers say they are too broke to show up for work. And later, international news. U.S. Republican Mike Pence faces off with Democrat Kamala Harris in tonight's vice presidential debate.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. The Sudan and its neighbor South Sudan have a common interest in boosting oil production if both countries are to reverse the economic damage caused by COVID-19 pandemic. To achieve this goal, the two countries have agreed to do just that, increase oil production to pre-Civil War levels. Correspondent Patrick Oyet has the story.
South Sudan depends on oil to fund 98% of its budget. The country's oil passes through Sudan's Port Sudan and then on to the international market. Khartoum is paid transit fees in US dollars, and the oil sector provides jobs for many Sudanese people. A global fall in oil prices due to the coronavirus has therefore resulted in a lack of foreign currency. Oil production is plummeting and inflation is rising in both South Sudan and Sudan. Now, petroleum ministers from the two countries say they are working to increase production.
It is a new beginning for the two nations, that we will be collaborating, we'll be cooperating, and we will really be looking to the issues as they arise with open heart and open mind.
The civil war, which began in 2013 in South Sudan, halted production in some oil fields in the country. South Sudan is currently producing 140,000 barrels of oil per day, but it says it wants to increase output to 350,000 barrels per day, as was the case before the civil war. Juba and Khartoum have agreed to expedite production in new oil fields in South Sudan as a way to increase output.
We in Sudan have the technical capacity to help our South Sudanese brothers and sisters to do more oil exploration and production so that we save our two countries from the economic challenges we face now.
Both countries hope that oil holds the key to stabilizing their economies as they head into pastures unknown.
Zimbabwe teachers have held talks with the government in an effort to end the ongoing teacher strike. The teachers say they're all broke and cannot afford to show up for classes as schools reopened this week. The strike has upended hopes of rescuing this year's academic calendar. And correspondent Faraya Wakutuya reports.
Tawanda Achipa is meant to be in class teaching physics, but says he can't afford to go to work. He says his wages can't keep up with the rising cost of living.
At this home, we have actually cut the number of meals that we are supposed to be having per day. Like the kids, we have just 2 meals, and the adults, we are living on a single meal a day. Sometimes when things are not balancing, we also tend to borrow from our colleagues, not teacher colleagues, by the way, maybe the neighbors and so on, because that's how we can only make ends meet. I'm deep in debt right now. I don't know how I'm going to return back what I've borrowed.
His stress has been increased by the fear of losing his job for participating in the strike.
We are not enjoying working under threats every day. You have read it in the media. We are being threatened, the dismissals, for just asking for a decent living. Yeah, it's one of those things. We also feel like we are being treated like second-class citizens. Why? Because they are giving preference to other sectors. They ignore the teaching field.
The teachers are pegging their hopes on talks between their union and the government which are underway.
We would need something like an equivalent of $520 for a professional teacher to continue to work in the schools. 520 is a wage that we are saying, okay, it's acceptable. It's not enough still, but it's a starting point for us to continue to work.
Currently, teachers earn the equivalent of $47. This is a school where Tawanda Wachipa teaches, and the longer that he stays away from this workstation, the harder it will be for his students to do well in their end-of-year exams. The longer the impasse continues, the more disillusioned he'll become.
I'm actually at a point where I don't know whether I should continue within this discipline or I should just leave it. Yeah.
And do what?
And find anything else that may be better than what is, better than the situation it's in right now.
His departure could add to a flight of skills that threatens to compromise Zimbabwe's renowned education sector.
The National Museums of Kenya has reopened all museums and monuments to visitors and tourists across the country after a 6-month shutdown as a result of COVID-19. Authorities say the reopening will be in strict adherence to COVID-19 protocols.
Fort Jesus in Kenya's port city of Mombasa is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is grappling with the challenges of reopening after closing back in March due to COVID-19.
We depend on the revenue and some funding from the ministry to be able to run the museum. But because the revenue was not coming in, then the restoration, maintaining of some of the preservation activities was now stopped.
One of the research area which was affected was the underwater heritage. We are proposing to build an underwater museum within the coast of Kenya.
There was a serious impact whereby the research had to stop. Then it becomes easy now to come to the field, meet the fishermen and discuss, carry out field works, do ecological surveys.
Across the country, museums have adopted measures to ensure the safety of visitors as well as staff. The cultural institutions have come up with new ways to boost engagement, visits, and ultimately revenue.
We now decided to look for other ways, and one of them was online virtual education programs. Last weekend, on Saturday, we had a program about the Swahili kitchen. We also had a virtual program of the tour, so that visitors at home, they can go online and just have a tour of the fort.
With Kenya slowly easing epidemic restrictions, hopefully more people will visit these cultural sites.
When we return, international news. U.S. Republican Mike Pence faces off with Democrat Kamala Harris in tonight's vice presidential debate. And later, sport. Super Eagles former coach Samson Siasia laments delay of his appeal by the Court of Arbitration.
You are watching ANN.
Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, Africa News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. The U.S. vice presidential debate takes place tonight in Salt Lake City, but President Trump's COVID-19 status has forced some additional health security steps as the Commission on Presidential Debates tries to keep its events from further worsening the pandemic. The Commission has introduced for tonight's debate the installation of a sheet of plexiglass between the two debaters, Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Senator Kamala Harris and incumbent Republican Vice President Mike Pence, to allay fears of transmission of the virus while they banter. Aides to Vice President Pence had earlier objected to the barrier, saying it was unnecessary, but accepted the idea when the Democratic side insisted on it to protect their candidate. The distance between the two candidates has also been increased to 12 feet 3 inches. It is yet to be seen if the same step will be taken at the town hall-style presidential debate in Miami, Florida, in just about a week. Democratic officials are calling for more rigorous safety measures. They have asked for the removal of attendees who refuse to wear a mask or to observe social distancing protocols. The debates may not even hold if President Trump's COVID-19 status nosedives. The Italian government is trying COVID-19 rapid testing in schools. Italy has metamorphosed from a country with extremely high numbers of COVID-19 infections and deaths to one that has kept the management of the disease in check.
They're some of the most affected by the pandemic, students who have missed months of education. But the government says it's a top priority to keep them in class.
It's very important because the students really want to stay at school, so there is a big collaboration between the principals and the health department to safeguard schools.
After a 6-month COVID shutdown, schools reopened in mid-September. Since then, 1,500 students have tested positive for the virus.
We had to close some classrooms and in some cases we closed the school, but only for 48 hours. We are focusing on isolating the problem as quickly as possible without affecting the entire school.
To identify cases faster, schools in the Lazio region are now trialling rapid testing.
It would be perfect because with my son I had to wait in line for a test for 3 hours and then we had to wait at home for 3 days for the result.
It's absolutely one of the first things we have to do, because keeping students at home for 3 days to wait for the result of a normal test is complicated.
The tests were implemented in Fiumicino Airport in August.
This is the rapid antigen test that is carried out on passengers considered high risk
and within 30 minutes we have a result.
This phase of coexistence with the virus may prove to last for some time. Therefore, I think the rapid test concept is actually the solution.
During the summer peak, 1,200 tests a day were being carried out in Fiumicino, which is the first airport in the world to be awarded a 5-star COVID safety rating.
The idea is to try and detect a potential infection in minutes rather than in days.
It's hoped the tests could eventually be used in schools across the country.
The trial in schools comes as the number of new cases in Italy rises to its highest level since April. The government is now considering reimposing some restrictions, such as nighttime curfews and a ban on big gatherings.
In some regions, it is already compulsory to wear masks outdoors, while there could be localised lockdowns and closures of high-risk businesses.
Up next, sport. Super Eagles former coach Samson Siasia laments delay of his appeal by the Court of Arbitration. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, Super Eagles former coach Samson Siasia says he's upset about the continuous delay of his appeal by the Court of Arbitration for Sport over his FIFA Live ban. The appeal hearing was scheduled for Tuesday, but was shifted to February next year due to COVID-19. This is the second time the appeal hearing is being moved after it had earlier been shifted from March. FIFA's Ethics Committee placed the live ban on Siasia after finding him guilty of accepting to receive bribes for manipulation of matches. Siasia says he demands fair hearing to prove his innocence. 33-year-old Lionel Messi, a record 6-time winner of the Ballon d'Or, has won everything in the club, a game with Barcelona, but not a World Cup trophy. Messi says the only goal he has now is to win the World Cup with the national team. The closest he has come so far was at losing finalist against Germany in 2014. He will be 35 by the time the Qatar World Cup ends and will turn 39 during the following global showpiece in North America. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.